In a bold move shaking up Washington, Texas Representative Ronny Jackson is pushing for a bill that could dramatically change the future of public media. Introduced Thursday, Jackson's proposed legislation seeks to sever all government funding to NPR and PBS, claiming that both outlets have become chronically biased and are using taxpayer dollars to push left-wing political agendas under the guise of public media. Dubbed the No Partisan Radio and Partisan Broadcasting Services Act, or the NPR and PBS Act, the bill targets what Jackson describes as a government-backed propaganda machine operating in favor of the radical left. Jackson's stance stems from his frustration with these publicly funded outlets, arguing that they no longer fulfill their mission to provide unbiased and educational content to the public. According to him, NPR and PBS have evolved into tools for promoting democratic talking points, rather than serving the interests of everyday Americans. But what does this all mean for the future of NPR and PBS? Well, if Jackson's bill gains traction, it could spell the end of federal funding for these stations, forcing them to compete like any other private media outlet. This bold stance has come at a time when Elon Musk is leading the charge on cutting wasteful government spending through his Department of Government Efficiency, a move that only intensifies the call for reform in the media sector. This controversy reached a peak during a tense hearing by the House DOJ subcommittee, where top leaders from NPR and PBS, Catherine Marr and Paula Kerger, faced tough questions about their outlets' direction. In a rare admission of fault, Marr acknowledged NPR's mishandling of the Hunter Biden laptop story, a moment that many saw as a significant blow to the outlet's credibility. Marr stated, "We were mistaken in failing to cover the Hunter Biden laptop story more aggressively and sooner," highlighting a moment of reckoning for the public media giant. Meanwhile, PBS didn't escape scrutiny either. Kerger's network came under fire for producing programs like Real Boy, a show that follows a transgender character. This led to sharp criticism from DOJ subcommittee chair Marjorie Taylor Greene, who accused PBS of contributing to the trans child abuse industry. Her words stung, especially as she criticized both outlets for being out of touch with the American people, suggesting they were more aligned with the radical left than the average viewer. So, what's driving this push to defund these public media staples? Well, the issue revolves around the perception of bias in coverage. Jackson, a vocal critic of what he sees as a liberal agenda, argues that taxpayers should be forced to fund media outlets that skew so heavily to the left. His criticism isn't just political, it's deeply rooted in the idea that NPR and PBS have betrayed their mission to serve the public in an impartial, informative way. What's next for NPR and PBS? Will they be able to continue operating as they have, relying on government funding, or is the time coming for them to compete in a media landscape that is more financially demanding? The debate is far from over, but with key figures like Jackson leading the charge, it's clear that the future of public broadcasting is at a crossroads. And here's the kicker: former President Donald Trump has expressed support for defunding NPR and other similar outlets, adding fuel to the fire. Trump has voiced his frustration with what he perceives as the wasteful spending of taxpayer dollars, saying, "They spend more money than any other network of its type ever conceived." In the coming months, all eyes will be on the House and Senate to see whether Jackson's bill gains enough momentum to pass, potentially reshaping the landscape of public media funding for good. What do you think? Should taxpayer money be used to fund media outlets, or is it time for a change?